Hey shaves, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this month of August 2023. I think this is the first time I'm wearing a hat on AniTube Digest, and it won't be the last, because I don't know if you know the lore. You probably do. This is the anniversary of AniTube Digest. I am very late. This is the last monthly digest that I'm going to be probably doing for a while. I don't think I'm going back to it. So what's coming back? Weekly. And it's like, well, you're doing an awful good job so far. Thanks. Because as well as the regular format of like structuring these into like more of a curated, like what I thought were the best ones, and those categories. I stopped that while ago because I felt they were so arbitrary, and they were. But like, I could tell that people kind of cared about them, or I don't know. There's just something about the previous, how consistent it was, how more timely it was, and it had less. It wasn't just like, here's a bunch of videos. It was more, had a little more excitement to it when there was categories, I guess. So I'm bringing, I broke what was not broken. And then just in general, it was because the reason I'm going back to part of this is, I want some routine. I want to be able to do something on every Monday as I used to do. That structure really gave a lot of structure to my life. At least I hope so. The lore with Digest is that I never really wanted to stop cold turkey just one day, just stopped uploading or whatever. I need to decide on the anniversary, so which is the end of August, about now, do I want to commit to another full year of Digest? And I'm thinking we do one more. I'm thinking we're back. But we'll do weekly again. If I feel like it, that it's over, then this will be the last one. And 5 years is pretty impressive, I think. I can't say I never missed an upload or anything. Was really the most consistent, I guess. But it lasted a fair while. It's lasting a fair while. Lasted. This is not the last one. The first one is a request video. I haven't had a request video in a long time. It's from good old Doji. But I thought instead of the typical kind of request where I just kind of talk about it after the fact, I'm gonna react to it. In the time since I've been doing these, started doing some reactions, and I'm doing the format, and I think this one worked best because I'm pretty sure this is an AMV. What Makes You Think I'm So Special by lordlook. The substitute footage apparently is from Children of the Sea. Very good choice. That is insanely smooth.
I always thought I might be bad. Now I'm sure that it's true, 'cause I think you're so good. And I'm nothing like you. Look at you go. Do about anything. I could even learn how to love.
Tracked really well. Very fun track. I wonder if it's a mix-up if the first bit was a different song and it transitioned into this one. Oh, man. I'm so happy I'm caught up. Wow. That's incredible. I think I had to say it, but I wanted to like absorb it first, and then we can like, kind of go through it a little. The biggest thing that stood out to me is the thing that they're doing with the editing of the footage to make it look more cinematic with the depth of field. I'm trying to find, like, this is a really good example. Probably a lighting effect, and there's a lot of Gaussian blur and like a masking thing right there. Something like that. I'm just guessing. Yeah, really subtle video effects here. And just everything feels so smooth. I don't suppose they're using any East Blue footage. By East Blue, I just mean like the 99 series, the original like older footage. They're kind of taking from like the more modern widescreen episode of East Blue, probably whatever flashback, whatever they reanimated, like this stuff here. This is probably a fabricated shot. It probably is a shot that they created. Uh, maybe. I don't know. At the very least, it's transitioned very well to make it go a lot faster. This is really nice. There's a what he's using here is a lens distortion, I believe. The way that the image is slowly growing on the outskirts, like the outsides here, but it's not zooming in the footage, right? It's not just like going closer to the fish or the bread or any like I can hold on. We're going frame by frame on this. See, it's not necessarily zooming the footage in. It's sort of like bending the footage almost. Really good choices too. The clips are very quick, but it's enough to like feel like it matters. Because sometimes when you put in a clip, it's it's just the audience is not going to register what it is at all. That's a good transition. That's nice. Really quick too. Nice. I think that I feel like this is a combination of two shots. I don't know where maybe the East Blue, I think, of him in the tux underwater like that. I think that's during Arlong's his fight with the karate dude Kurobi. Yeah, this is great. This transition right here going past his head here, really quick, really nice. Basically kind of transitions like almost immediately, but the audience still gets the sense of it. Because I imagine this footage here is from Children of the Sea, or one of the movies maybe. Nice lens flare here. Not lens, yeah, flare, yeah. This part right here, the way they're adding the light on the left side of the screen here. A lot of nice touches, really beautiful. It's just nice to see where it's like people always kind of clown on how One Piece looks, or just like it has kind of a shit production from Fishman to Wano, and Wano's where it looks really good. But I really didn't have next to any complaints about the animation. I'll admit it didn't wow me. It wasn't fucking movie. It wasn't Wano, right? But they really nail it. I really didn't have any production complaints about Whole Cake, and in particular with this subject here, with the footage that he's using. I'm sorry, to assume Lord Look's gender. I apologize. Maybe because of Lord. Maybe that's why I'm assuming that. I hope that's okay. Of course, the cinematicness, right? The wide brim here is so lovely. It just makes it like really impactful. I'd put it up full screen on my thing, but I was a dummy and didn't crop it like properly on OBS. Oh, this is such. I loved this match cut here.
'Cause I think you're so good.
Aw, it's the cutest shit ever. Love it to death. I would love to rewatch this part. This whole arc is so good. He's so good. And of course, it goes without saying the thematic thing that the song is to the lyrical content of taking it from Sanji's perspective on Luffy. I mean, obviously acknowledging the title. It's just absorbing in this scene, this stretch of episodes, the combination of Sanji fighting Luffy at first, and then later on Sanji going off to find Luffy, and mixing it with his encounters with him, with like BaronJ specifically. I'm just saying what's happening at this point. There's just a lot of material with Sanji's character in this. Oh, that's a great look at this. So I'm pretty sure that footage is like Children of the Sea probably. But then I think this background shot of the sunrise is original, is like not usually with this, and that allows the framing here with the widescreen to be that much more like dynamic, and it's not like weirdly off to one side or another. It's like perfectly framed. because I don't remember even in the. I assume this is taking from either Whole Cake reanimating this at some episode or episode of East Blue. Um, but either one, I don't imagine that the horizon here was panning up, but it allows for such like this like it's a great moment. I'm not saying it like it's worse if it's whatever, but it's good for the movement of the AMV. It's not just like still. Like you see how like I don't know if these zoom ins and zoom outs, these little small things that very subtly zooming in on the characters here. I don't know if that's from the show or something that the lordlook edited in. But the way that this is slowly moving and moving out and everything like that, no shot is like fully static. That is definitely an original shot. I don't know where he got that, although this definitely seems original. Like this design doesn't feel like it's from episode of East Blue or Whole Cake. It really, I think this one definitely feels like from original Bear Tier or some other place, early Toei, early One Piece, I should say. Because you can tell, right, with the character design here, like the way Luffy looks in that shot versus the way he looks here, much wider eyes, I think. This other shot, I think, is also from original. The washed out colors here, and it can also tell. Like I don't think I can zoom in here really, but like, not really, but that very much feels like a Blu-ray upscale, which is not a great Blu-ray upscale, not amazing. Yeah, like, this is definitely original footage. By original, I mean, like I said, from the first stretch. Probably because there was no episode of East Blue or whatever didn't have that exact shot of Zeph looking down on them, which is a really great establishing shot. This is a great, I should mention, this is an incredible mask. There's some things that are just like, they're so natural, they don't immersion break you. And I imagine it like, it can be immersion breaking for the editor, because they'll be like, I remember when I masked that. That's all I can think of every time I do something like that. But then a lot of people just don't even process it, because it's just so, especially the way they're doing the blurring here. You see where, look at Sanji's head here. It's going into a blurring effect. It really makes it feel a lot more purposeful. But this is very impressive masking here. The way that there's a dual, like, there's not just masking, there's a depth of field with the two layers here. That is really smart. I've never done that, I don't think. That is really smart. Not to say I do everything. I'm the best. I'm just saying, like, I never thought of that is all I'm saying. That's great. And obviously a good transition there. A lot of good fades. Not afraid to cut. Not afraid to have nice smash cuts. I think this moment really goes by really quick, actually. But that's okay. It's a 3-minute AMV, you know. It's very lean. That's great. I wonder, I bet the turtle was also from Children of the Sea, and that's a great like parallel with Sanji's journey, right? That makes a lot of sense. But it's small details you're not going to pick up on a first watch. It just kind of goes through, and this is why it's very nice that I think it was ultimately a good idea that I reacted to this. Yeah, big fan. Thank you so much for requesting that, Doji, and very good job, lordlook. I loved it a lot. Animebackwhen? Anime back. I watched his update video as well, which I really liked, and I encourage him to do more of those, just because it's nice to keep in touch. Just using YouTube as a method of keeping in touch. You know, just at this point, with how few creators are still uploading, or it's always just like good to see them again. It's like it feels different. It feels a lot different now, with just the way things are, I guess, with our space not uploading as much, I guess, or just YouTube being weird or whatever. To me, every time I see the kind of new upload of certain people and stuff, it's like kind of catching up with them, and it's just encouraging, I guess. I don't know, but like I really liked his update video, but I obviously want to, I'll mention his actual anime video that he put out with Welcome to Licensed by Royalty, the anime that never got loyalty. And it's I'm sorry I'm gonna be a parrot if I've talked about his videos a lot over the years, and I can say that, which is so crazy. Felt a lot of like your pocket of just kind of like getting the name of this title out there and getting people's eyeballs on it and being like, wow, that is really interesting. I should check that out. I remember finding this, seeing this entry in the Anime Encyclopedia, and I was like, I've never heard of this before, and I thought it was really interesting. And it's just exposure. I think before access, to this stuff, you kind of need to know about it first. Otherwise, it's like it doesn't matter if it's on this streaming service if you've never even know it existed in the first place. Especially with the way we operate now, where all this stuff is immediately at our fingertips, and YouTube videos are made assuming the audience is 1 foot out the door. That like they can, and they have all right to click off the video at any point in time. We all check our retentions. It all goes down to less than 50%. Like within the first 30 seconds, and a lot of creators work very hard to sustain those first 10 seconds to retain those viewers and stuff, because we just have so much. What pertains to this video is just that like, so at this point, I feel like with anime discussion or just like particular older titles, that if we're kind of going through the back, I don't know if that makes any sense. If animebackwhen, as you say, as the moniker, it's important to just kind of get the stuff out there, and it's okay if you're not saying anything that's like super profound or getting to the crux of the whole thing, or making this big elaborate point or whatever. I really like that you kind of talked about it so casually and right to us, and in front of us, and it didn't feel like a review of sorts. It's sort of just like how it made you feel, and at certain points and stuff, and pointing out certain things and giving specifics, which I appreciated, and giving specific episodes or like things like that. Felt very conscious and not just kind of out for the sake of it or whatever. Which sometimes this stuff can be. I certainly am guilty of it at this point. He was like, let me get something out, whether this as an update video, whatever. And I'm happy you did. That's all I'll say. Because I think that like a lot of us are choked up about what our next upload is, or how it was received and everything like that. I'm certainly in that camp as well. Maybe I'm just projecting. I'm probably projecting. This is going to be a lot of that today. I don't know. I just feel more weirdly introspective recently. I guess you could say. But no, it was really nice to see this kind of get exposure, and I just liked your approach, and always like checking in on stuff that like I've some of this stuff I've never had on my radar before, and I think you're tapping into a particular vein with the titles that you're doing that I think the stuff that I'm most interested in from you. If I was to dictate, it's none of my business. You talk about whatever, but it's the kind of like the 2000s stuff, like the Rumiko Takahashi thing, Claymore. I'm just looking at some of the stuff that you've done, right? And it's just like, I've never heard of this thing, like Crazy Kozo Basketball Club, certain things like that. And it's not one way or the other with your stuff, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's obviously I check out a lot of your, most of your stuff. But it's just, I don't know. I'm always really excited about the stuff that like I have next to nothing on my radar about, that I just get exposure to and become interested. So yeah, it certainly put this stuff on my radar, I think. I think do you talk about Human Crossing? I feel like you talked about Human Crossing. That's another one that I was like, this is really cool, and I'm really happy that you're talking about it, I guess. It was just something really comfy about that. Or like, felt right. Yeah, anyway. Love the vid, man. Thanks. Been a while since I talked about The Masked Man. You put out a Tezuka video, of all things. I was like, wow, okay. Ultimately, I really like the sentiment. Very backhanded. It was like, oh, great, here it comes. Great. No, it was good. And like I like that he wanted to focus on particular titles that stood out to him as he read a lot. Particularly Alabasta. I think that was really cool. To make certain points about. But like I think at one point he was like Mushi Pro responsible for Ashino Joe, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, and there was one other, and it was just like, you know, I was like, I think there's some misinfo in here. Like it was probably something along like Mushi or Tezuka Pro may have helped with like second key art or something, you know, like they may have been involved. I didn't look, but it was like, oh my god, it's fine. It was okay. The editing was very flashy and exciting. It didn't feel very repetitive. I don't know. There was little things that didn't feel quite as relevant to what Mass Man was specifically talking about, I guess. Mass Man is clearly talking about this photo of Osamu Tezuka surrounded by his manga like on the floor, and he's like, I made all it. And like he's describing it and the editor isn't showing it. Like, could you not find it? Like did you not be able to find it? That's so weird. I don't know. It's not a big deal. It's fine. But no, but like the one thing that I learned reading this book that I found really that I was like, oh, that's why it's like that. That I think Masked Man kind of gives a complaint about that, like, well, these are the same characters. They kind of bleed together after, or something along those lines. It was a light criticism and just sort of not like, it was like a passing thought. But to me, it was actually a really significant aspect of Tezuka's work that, you know, again, that this book really embellished for me. He implemented a star system. Meaning, the characters that he drew were actors in the stories that he told. So, Higeoyaji, this character would play multiple characters in different... And it's not the same character. It's literally like an actor in a movie. It's like, oh, Charlton Heston's playing this guy. It's like, okay, Higeoyaji is playing this character. And then there is this whole thing where it's like, this character would play these types of characters or like this archetype. And it was like, oh, and this person was actually, what is it called? Type, not like anti-cast. Like he was casted against type, where it's like, oh, normally he's a good guy, but in this one, he's an antagonist or something like that. And like, Rock Holmes, I think is the name of the character, that he's played protagonists in some of his stories, and then in others like Metropolis, he's a bad guy. It's shit like that. It's like, oh, that's really cool, actually. So I think he kind of missed out on that a little, and I don't know how. Honestly, like I knew that there were certain characters that showed up multiple times. Like I knew that, but I didn't connect that it was a very deliberate star system. I wasn't sure if this was one that he unscripted or was like a light script or kind of like a quick thing. You know, Masked Man is still not doing like the extra step of like citing sources or something like that. I don't necessarily go to his videos for information. That's okay. Like, I mean, sure, but like you can. There is information in it, but I don't necessarily know if he's making them to be informative as much as he is to like put things on his audience's radar. His audience is very big and impressionable and excited about this medium. So it's like, it just making this video at all puts it on their radar. It's like, you should care about a little bit about this and check it out. Like try these older things, right? It wasn't like a history or something. It was really just like an overview of the guy. It was like this guy Osamu Tezuka, it kind of matters a little bit. It's like yeah, he does. It's which is easy to take for granted for some of us. I think it was certainly something I took for granted for a long time. It was like yeah, Tezuka, yeah, right. But it's good that he does this, honestly. So I was happy to see it, happy to watch it. Good to see. Dong Chang, kind of switching it up a little bit, but this is still a video of like his work in the anime industry. He kind of starts it with like talking about the show itself and like how much he liked it as a show. But he's like, and I think it was about halfway through the video, he was like, yeah, so StudioNet was was commissioned to make an episode for it or to help with it. And he's like, I kind of came in late and I didn't have too much hands-on, whatever. It's not like he had a huge role, never mind a major creative role or anything like that. But I liked the whatever insight he could give about the production in terms of the staff's sentiment about it. They were not necessarily told the script or like what these scenes were for. They were just like, draw this, right? Kind of commissioned to do it, right? And not necessarily intimately involved with the process. And that's fine. It's work, right? It's important to do. It's important to contribute. It was cool that they were involved in some capacity, and just hearing the insights of just like the staff didn't really understand what was going on, and they were not exactly thrilled by the look of it. Oh, it's a school, powers, and the character designs are although maybe they don't know, or like as a fan who's just hearing about this production now, like as the way that it's marketed, right? The way it's presented to the public. We see it and we're like, we're told that the original character designs by Hisashi Higuchi. And for those people who know who Hisashi Higuchi is, that's exciting. That's like, whoa, that's so cool. That's a really appealing aspect. But it was cool to seeing Don Chang's perspective of just like, yeah, these are kind of interesting designs, I guess. This character is really interesting, the Indian character, and like zoning in on that and his thoughts on that. It's cool because it was like specific, and it wasn't like his Decadence video where it was more like, this is how I did this shot or anything like that. As useful and interesting as that can be, I think this approach was actually kind of interesting too in its own way. And maybe it was a way to kind of deviate to like the concrete things I worked on. Not much to say. I only did kind of this or something. But I think what he filled it with the staff perspective of like, they don't really know what's going on, but it's directed by Shingo Natsume, so it should be good. So like they have like that trust in the director. That was really interesting to hear about. I don't know. Like that insight was really nice, as well as the welcome additive towards the beginning of like, this is a show that's like this, and feels like this, and giving that kind of, you should check it out, that sort of thing. I really liked it. Yeah, it was fun. I figured it was only right to give a quick update with Corridor Crew, who continued their AI project. Is this AI art, or is this something new? And I think there's another upload talking about this. So, and it has, it was like a week later, I think, it's gotten more views. It's twice as long, and it has almost the same thumbnail as the first one did, like way back when. The difference with there's obviously a couple differences with the first and second project. The two biggest ones for me, first, you can't watch the full short unless you sign up for their exclusive site or whatever. I think it's like on their website. Then you have to like create an account, that sort of thing. I think it's free still, but even just that barrier still, it's just like, yeah. I didn't have the bandwidth, with going through all these videos, or the interest necessarily. What I do know is that the short is twice as long as the original, and as they're describing it, there's a lot more set pieces, and there's different characters besides just two. There's a lot going on, and I'm sure I could get even more detail from the other video, but I wanted to focus on this one where they actually really confront the allegations or the criticisms that they got, and they were like, it was really one of the most divisive projects they had ever put out, which was probably a new experience for them, all things considered, because usually their stuff is like really cool and exciting and kind of, like not a lot of people are on that level as them. So I imagine they don't get too much in the way of actual pushback, right? And so this is probably a first for them, or at least a rare instance. And I honestly think that they handled themselves pretty well, because they did take the main criticism that like pretty much completely, like that was like, oh yeah, okay, that's fair. Which is taking from Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust and applying it to their art style. So they made it a point for this new project. It is only trained as far as we know, not to doubt them, it is as far as trained on their art style, which obviously is a considerable amount more work. And I just think that was what people wanted and were cool with. But I like that they really didn't back down either. Like I think that would be cowardly. I understand the concerns and pushback, and I don't necessarily have the biggest trust in this tech either, but I think they made really good points. I wish I wrote some of them down, where it was like their definition of art is, if it elicits a reaction, it's entertainment. It's art. You know what I mean? It's like, it obviously elicited a reaction. I think they're right about that. And it could be vitriolic and whatever, but it's you can't be like it's not art. You know what I mean? Especially because it's like all of it that incorporated all of the work that went into it. It's not just pressing a button. I think a lot of people are, dogging, I guess, raw dogging, not raw dogging. That they are going hard against AI because they assume that it's a one button push and stealing other people's art. But then in this instance, with the whole open source code, the whole technology, and it's only pooling not from the internet, from their own art, their own existing art, and then they are still filming and writing and buying the asset of the settings and placing all the cameras and editing it and compositing it and doing all this stuff. It's art. It's a product. It is what they wanted to make. And I like that they incorporate themselves like, hey, for years, this is where we're coming from. We were youths, we were filming outside in our backyard. All of a sudden, this technology was made available to us that used to just be for the film studios. And now we could do some kind of our own things. And gradually, certain softwares were opened up to the public more and more, little by little. And eventually, it led to them creating their own first film. And that's what they are. They're filmmakers, right? So, I mean, I really sympathize with that, honestly. Not like I'm a filmmaker or something like that. I make videos. I think it made sense. I think it was a fair enough argument. And it shows that, like, there hasn't been any future blowback. I don't think anyone on my timeline seems to know that this was a thing, that they actually made another one, I will say, from the one clip that they showed in this video, maybe there's more in the subsequent video, and obviously there's the full short available that I didn't watch, I still think there is room for criticism about what they consider anime. Because it's kind of insulting to see their impression of anime is a script, and then the mouths just kind of do whatever. The mouths just kind of open, and they have this weird acting to them. And it's like the Fairly Odd Parents parody of Speed Racer. I'm a racer, and doing the races, what am I to do? Ah, ooh, ah! Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's like, do you see any anime doing that right now? Is that really what it looks like to you? It was just really discouraging to see that it's just like, yeah, it still isn't really being directed or performed or animated as much as you want to argue about whether it's animated or not. It's not being made with the real thought processes that come with animation, that come with anime specifically as a medium. There's a lot of different nuances to it. I only just found out this nuance, as I was watching these videos, doing other stuff. I was watching an episode of Kamikaze Kaito John, Magical Girl series from the 1999, and I made this Twitter thread of just a little small clip of Toru Furia's cameo performance, which I think was just so interesting, and like a specific thing that I think only anime does, because they have this such big pool of famous voice actors that are specifically voice actors. They're not just cameo like celebrities or something, and getting them to voice a character who's the center of that episode, allowing them to really ham it up and really, really make an impression and contribute in their own way, is really special and interesting. And that's an aspect of anime that's so particular to it. But yeah, anyway, that's one aspect. And obviously I'm not expecting them to recreate that or somehow that specific one. I just mean there's careful consideration for this. For example, like, you know, vast majority of anime, again, not all of them, they have only a limited amount of lip flaps, right? There's usually just open, halfway, and closed. And the stillness of that, of the rest of the character, contributes to where you place the characters, how they move, a lot of things. You know what I mean? And obviously it's not the same for every anime. It's obviously a wide medium. It was just disappointing that it still doesn't address. It's just kind of like, it's weird to call it anime, in my opinion. Yeah, I guess that's the extent of what I would say. I think there is something to go into that second episode and maybe even the first episode, and really break down, like, is this really what Kawajiri would do? You know, or any other type of series, I guess, or you can compare it to different stories, I guess. And because like it was interesting seeing the artists describing their style, like they were trying to match, they were trying to like integrate their own personal style with something a little more anime-like, and their reference material was Gundam Wing and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, and I think one other, but they were mentioning Gundam Wing specifically, I guess. That's interesting. So it's like, maybe you identify that character designer and maybe take a synthesis of their other work. And maybe that way you can actually get a better understanding of that person's style. Because obviously when you make a character design, they're taking, they start with reference material of like different angles of what the character will look like. And then from there, the animation director kind of adapts what it looks when they kind of look like it's close enough, right? Yeah, the whole thing. But yeah, I just wanted to update on it because, you know, I covered it originally when it first came out. And then obviously I don't think anybody, Bonsai or Jeff, or I don't think anyone's really made an update to their update. So I figured it was up to me. But yeah, they've done like 3 videos. They have that, and then the VFX reveal like before and after, comparing their live footage to the original. And then of course the short itself. And then there's they even reacted to bad and great anime, including Trigun Stampede and Chainsaw Man. So I don't know. There was just like a lot of good anime content from them, and it was nice to see. I didn't cover all of it, but yeah, I figure I'd give an update on that. BaronJ, the One Piece Renaissance. I didn't expect it to make a One Piece video. Yay! And it, you know, I liked the format again of him being on screen most of the time. I think he has a very good on-screen presence. And it being the whole time and still retaining his kind of monochrome aesthetic almost. And it was funny with like cutting in between with like what he was recording versus like this intercut. It was like, oh, I forgot to put on the back of like an episode that's fucking crazy or whatever. Like, look how good this anime is right now, guys. A lot of it ended up being kind of just his personal experience with One Piece of just like, yeah, I got into it like this, and this is where I ended my relationship with it almost. But like, I don't know how the title and thumbnail made it seem that he was going to go way harder on like, guys, One Piece is crazy right now. Because it isn't just the Wano anime. It's the live action series, which I think he just kind of made a passing mention to, but maybe because it hadn't come out yet at the time that this video had come out. But the fact that was coming out and that was going to be such a big deal, and it is, or what, you know, at the current moment at least. But even just like the fact that the manga is in the final saga, you didn't bring that up. I don't feel like maybe I forgot, but maybe I don't feel like he made a big deal out of that, or you know, Film Red just the previous year and just celebrating the 1000th chapter, 1000th episode, and 100th volume the year before that. I believe it was 2021, or no, it was 22. I don't remember. Something like that. In this, you know, recent period, it really feels like another boom, similar to previous booms in that One Piece as a series has experienced. It's so long that you can actually track periods where like a surge of people got into it at the same time. Marineford is a notable boom like that because it was like this particular movie was just coming out. This, the anime was adapting this part of the material, and in the manga it was like over here or something like that. It's a culmination of the different mediums and IPs that One Piece as a franchise is encompassing, and trying a lot of different stuff because it has the agency, as because like not even just the live action anime and manga are happening. There's an ice skating show happening. That was just recently been in the talks of, and I think it's happening right now or something. Obviously in Japan, it doesn't really matter much to us. It's like, well, yeah, I can't watch it, so why do I care? No, I think it's to show that it's an active franchise. It's not that we hear nothing about, and then maybe a movie suddenly, whoa, we're suddenly getting more of this show, or suddenly more of this IP or something. The fact that it's so consistently fresh, and it's not resting on its laurels. It's not just like a manga that's still going 40 years later. Like, I was seeing that that this like the dick measuring contest of like on Twitter of One Piece being fewer pages than JoJo, and then a bunch of quote tweets are not only being like no shit, but also like just still sucking on JoJo's dick. But taking One Piece away, like it's not even the longest manga. Like, yeah, no shit. Like, it's not even close. Like, I'm sorry to subtweet people, okay, but and maybe this is me coming as like a One Piece fanboy now, because like that's what I am. Hello, literally, my first figure was Luke. I literally just bought my first anime figurine in the 10 years that I've been a fucking fan, and it was of Luffy. And then I have like volumes of the manga strewn all over the place now. I am in deep, but it was just like I don't see the need to just like take One Piece down a peg. I don't need to see it. You don't need to do that to me. You don't need to. It's just like it feels unnecessary. But maybe it is necessary when it wins so much. I don't know. Maybe that's why it's getting attacked so much, because it just wins. It wins every time. No, where was I? BaronJ, right? Yeah. So I just feel like there was more you could have talked about. I really liked you talking about it. Don't get me wrong. And I liked your presentation a heck of a lot. And I think your enthusiasm for the series was really encouraging and exciting to share with as a fellow fan, right? I think it's kind of like, yeah, it's one of those series that can bond us all. Isn't it great? One Piece is great. But it is funny, like you kind of like brought this video right before all the insane shit happened all at once, in Year 5 and the live action. And again, I feel like you could have mentioned the titles. Well, maybe it was spoilers. Maybe it was too spoilery. I don't know. Or maybe you're not caught up. Are you not caught up, BaronJ? Like, I thought you said you were caught up. Yeah, anyway. No, but I've really enjoyed your insight, and best of luck on your new channel. He's doing a D&D type of thing. I don't know, D&D something. hasn't uploaded yet. That's okay. Yeah, but best of luck on that new channel and your new and more endeavors. And good to see you just active still, right? I was just saying with animebackwhen as well. It's like those of us who aren't making this super a big deal and aren't like the big creators that it's their livelihood and they have a whole team around them that can sustain this sort of thing. It's always really nice to see people that are still like, yeah, still at it, still going odd. Yeah. Beyond Animation DM'd me this video. It was like, this is my magnum opus. I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. Sorry, I haven't been about out for last few uploads, but I was like, you know what? Sure. Yeah. Even though I am not caught up on JJK, I've only seen JJK 0. So I knew a little, a little bit. But and obviously it's spoiling the recent season. Just that literally just wrapped up, and I was like, wow, that sounds like a great time. And it's like, not as spoiled. So I think if anything, it obviously is encouraging me to watch it, but I'm waiting for it to be done. Okay, like I think this is gonna be a show that's gonna be a banger when I binge it. Okay, but yeah. So this was really clean. I understand too that like I don't know. I think what editing is there is pretty slick, but I would say that it was clear, especially towards the end where you have this kind of little montage towards the end, which was nice. But there's a lot of reused footage. There's a lot of the same footage, and that's obviously because it's like you're talking about a very narrow part of the story that only just got adapted and only has so much material. I was like, maybe there was a possibility to integrate the manga into this, not to like give a comparison or anything like that, but just to give it some visual variety, because I do feel like I had seen the same shots of the guy in the shower or them going on kayaking and certain shots of them walking away with the white light. It's such an impactful and efficient visual image of that was such a slow sentence visual image of the two of them. It was similar to, like, it reminds me of the Guts and Griffith image that Griffith sees when he's just like, only you. He's like, it's his picture of him and Guts together. It was similar to that. I'm like, oh, that's a great dynamic. Oh, like, ooh. It's an impactful moment, and you reuse it a lot. It shows up multiple times. And it's like, it could have more impact in the video as a whole if you save it for the end. If you find other ways to show them that they're bonding as a pair or something like that. But I think you had like 4-6 episodes to work with. It's still a decent amount for for a 12-minute video. You could get away with it, but it depends on what it was focusing. I don't know that I'm not that intimate with the material, but I guess maybe that's a potential option if you used some like just manga art to convey some of the points that you were making, not to like make it direct to the manga or something like that. But yeah, I don't know, just to consider if you're like thinking like with visual variety for me, I guess for like, but ultimately the points were well made. I really liked the focus with with him being the strongest and whether that's a good thing, where it's like he became the strongest and it's like, oh. It's like but it's hard for me with analysis sometimes where I worry that I'm just regurgitating what the show is saying, like the keynote of the show. I'm not adding anything. I'm not accusing you of that. I'm saying that that's always a concern for me. It made me think about that. I was like, that's a tough thing, because it's like you want to, because the trick is, you want to say those things. You want to convey how cool this moment is, or this idea is. But the show does such a good job at just saying it. And you may have actually mentioned that in the video itself. It's like, yeah, he does a good job just saying it. I don't know. And so that's really hard to mine newfound analysis or newfound ways of saying it or conveying it. That aren't just a straight up regurgitation of the show, like plot summary or something. There's that a macro, like a meme going around of yeah, that's a lot of us for sure, and it is, some of it is very purposeful. I think there's sometimes where it's necessary and purposeful, where it's like I really want to go beat by beat and appreciate it. I don't want to just be like, and then they fight, I really want to like marinate in it for longer than the show, than just, and that creates an additive experience. But I can understand there's vibes of that where I wasn't saying that. I'm not saying this is all plot summary. No. But it's hard not to sometimes feel that way, or to like, I don't know. It's fine. It reminded me of trying to strike that balance, I guess. Just a talking point, just a thing. And it's just like, it reminds me of that. Because when you were talking about the strongest, the way I was conveyed that with the story made it feel that it was like a loss for him. He's like, I'm the strongest, meaning I lost my best friend. I don't have anyone that's equal to me. He's not one of the strongest. He's just the strongest, and he's alone, right? Damn. It's something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I enjoyed the vid. A lot of the touches you have in this with like the subtle editing and the subtle like visual stuff that you trickle in there. But yeah, it was nice. TheCynicClinic. Oh man, what Breaking Bad taught me about anime. I gotta tell you, the idea is really cool, and I can understand how it's really hard to get there in like a video, in like a YouTube video. That's like, what are you gonna tell me in the first 10 seconds, right? And it really was like the disclaimer plus your intro this time, which I was all strapped in for. I'm strapped for all your videos no matter what. I'm ride or die. I'm a very loyal viewer in that regard, and I think a lot of your subscribers, a lot of your viewers can say that about your videos. I'm sure they can say that about mine too, but then I'm scrutinizing my stuff, being like, is this why my vids are doing a garbage? Because like I put this thing in, and is that why it is kind of rings weird, and that's why a bunch of people might click off, and maybe that's why YouTube's not pushing my shit. Not to say you, I don't know. I hate to do this shit that I did with Hayden too, where I'm just like talking about performance or anything like that. It just happens. I just think that because it's like, you really are one of the best people doing this. Filmography, like just the way that you're filming shit, like how nice is your camera? It looks so nice. And then like I just think your charisma on camera too, like the things that you add in and the little jokes and the editing like trick, like the way that you're transitioning with like putting the composition of the person right here and the person behind you right here, but then this person kind of notices and like, oh, and then like disappear. Like that's so smart and playful and amazing. Like the fuck. It's like shit. It's like I gotta buy everything now. Like I gotta get on this guy's level. Like I gotta make shit like this. But you know, so maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. No, but like, I think that so if I'm correct, the topic of the real thing that it taught you about anime, if I'm to articulate it, is that there are details that you will think are mistakes or cliches or dumb that are bad. The way you summarize at the very conclusion is it's okay to criticize ramen for being whatever, but it's stupid to criticize ramen for not tasting like spaghetti. You know, for like being something it isn't, or for misplaced criticism, where it's like, oh, that's immersion breaking that this car in Breaking Bad is a very minor detail, has like the license plates, but then you look into it and it's actually very immersive because it's true to life, it's accurate to that culture that you're not quite familiar, and there's a slight dissonance, like a little weird parallel universe because you share so much American culture with Australian culture. That was so insightful and like fascinating to listen to. I was just thinking about how like there's a ton of Australian YouTubers that I'm absolutely in love with, like Internet Historian, How to Bake That, How I Did a Thing, fucking the journalism guy, Jordy, I think, had his like house firebombed recently or something like that. Like there's, and then of course yourself, and like there's, and it's just like, wow, Australia is packed with talent. Wow, and then no, thing Australia. No, it was really interesting because it made me think of that. Anyway, but yeah, and applying that to anime where the schools all look the same because this is how they were all built back then. They do look the same, actually, until very recently. A lot of the newer ones are kind of built different. But that's why there's certain cliches and stuff like that. And complaining about them doesn't make sense in this way. It's unproductive, I guess. But you know, it's like this. It's so weird. This like I think what happened here was that you had an idea, and then you refashioned to try to like kind of go around and find what the title and thumbnail is, and like how do I turn this into a video people might click on, right? That's how it felt like to me, because then like as a viewer, the Breaking Bad things very quickly became sort of like, it was just a hook to get in, to get to click on it, whatever. And the thing with with YouTubers, you know, like, was that like they think of the title and thumbnail first, and then flesh the rest of it, and then build the video on top of, like, into that. And if they don't have a good enough one that is that is effective, that people will actually whatever, then they're not going to go through the effort of making it, which I think is sad and reductive in a way, right? Because that limits, because people are not interested in everything that we are, that I am, that you are, that other people, you know. What we're talking about is inherently niche. And especially the topics that we're talking about, they're niche because they're nuanced. They're niche because they're very granular, that can lead to bigger understandings, and like really infect it with a bigger idea, but it's not, but the waiting to get to that is not in a format that is like, that a Joe Schmo is going to click on, I guess, or that YouTube is going to send to Joe Schmo. But then at the same time, do you really want Joe Schmo to watch this shit anyway? What's that going to do? Because it just boosts whatever. I don't know. I'm starting to make it about performance and stuff. But just like, that's what grabbed my attention about this video, was its performance. And the way I was just thinking, and I'm looking about, that's obviously coloring not this video specifically, but like, my video did garbage, my last upload. And it was so bad that I'm like, I'm going to focus on making this one idea that I have in 2 years in planning, that I have, that I think is going to be a fucking firecracker, and be actually kind of incendiary, and kind of like really maybe move some stuff, like really kind of do something. The one I'm really excited about, I'm going to put these other ones that I've literally had in my head for months, so many times, so excited about them. But then I'm like, I don't have the time. I don't have the thing. And I'm like, but then I'm just going to do garbage anyway. Because I know they're going to do garbage. I know they're going to do garbage. One for me, one for them. I already did the one for me. I can't do another one for me. Can't be all about for me, I guess. Because I guess, like, the reason for this, and you were on YouTube longer than me. I'm sorry, I'm just making this a fucking therapy session, okay? The reason for me, it's like, I think that's why a lot of us are dropping off. I think that's why I am not current. I am talking about some people, like, it's great to talk about BaronJ. It's great to talk about animebackwhen. It's great to talk about some of these guys that have been here for a long time, that I've talked about their videos for years, and some newcomers, right? But like, it is, at the end of the day, like, I think it's a loop. We feed YouTube, and YouTube is rewarding us, not necessarily monetarily or success-wise or popularity or something like that, but like, I'm going to say validation or adoration, and maybe those are cheap metrics too. But like, it really is just like, I want people to be like, that was a cool video. And I made another video so that people could say that again. And if they're not saying it necessarily, or it's not having the same warm reception or whatever, then it's like, well, I guess I won't make them. I'm busy with other things. I'm literally like, I have two video projects for my job that I get paid hourly to work on. I'm going to do that instead of the thing that I get paid very little to do, and apparently don't get very much out of. Sorry, like, yeah, and I'm fortunate to say that, because I actually have a job that I could do that. That's incredibly lucky of me, and I'm blessed. But like, I'm so egotistical like this, right? Because I want more. I want that and the fucking YouTube shit. Fuck's wrong with me? Anyway, sorry, the therapy, venting. No venting on digest. I should make that a rule. I should be like, pipe the fuck up. Anyways, now, but really, it just makes me upset, because it's like your vids are always so consistently imaginative, funny, informative, mind expanding, everything you want a YouTube video to be. I wish they were all like this. Seriously, it's insane. I don't want to be one of those guys where you're just like, oh shit, like, you already know that. And you complain about like people already saying that, right? So sorry I focused on that. It's just what's on my mind. That's what I want to say about it, I guess. But yeah, I guess I don't want to come off as some kind of fucking expert at this shit, right? I'm just like, you should have a better intro. Like I'm one to fucking talk. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if you listened Colleen and Samir. They recently, the other week or whatever, they put out like tips of a really good YouTube intro. And I just found it really interesting. And it was like, yeah, I could do for doing that. Of like creating an unclosed loop where I give the audience something that they were looking for when they clicked on the video. But then I gave them a little bit more in a way that was like, wait, I want to know that now. And they're hooked. They're going to keep watching. Something like that. Maybe that's not even going to work. Fuck it, right? The thumbnail. And I hate it. The game sucks, and I've known this for years, and I keep complaining about it, and nothing happens. Nothing changes. Like, just gonna get better. Okay, I'll shut up now. Great video. Obviously, I loved it. I'm frustrated how much I love it, really. An OVA for Villains versus Gear 5 Anime House. Wow. I don't quite know why they had to make this an OVA when, like, the regular episodes, the last episode was an hour long, right? I don't know. Maybe it was just something they had to put on the schedule based on, like, it's not even like it had that many in the way of effects or anything. And I don't necessarily think it was all that funny either. Not this time. It was very like plot continuity, like a connective tissue type of thing. There are certainly funny moments. The one who plays Frieza, I think, is a consistent showstopper in these. I think I said it in the last one, but like his performances are consistently very charismatic, and you can tell they give him like the leading part, or like the kind of the part that gets a lot of screen time because it's just like he's so good. Yeah, I think I just really like seeing it. Obviously Mark being the main character, and this interesting quandary that they pose with Light being the protagonist, and I can tell that's where they were gonna go. Where they Madara asks Shenlong, this is crazy. If you don't have any context for this, Madara asks the Dragon Ball, wishes on the Dragon Balls that all the villains become the protagonists. And so Light is still in the same house. Like all the other characters got defeated, and now the villains are occupying their house, the anime house. But Light is still in there. And the cartoon character, like there's Western cartoons that are like Ben 10 and Samurai Jack and these other characters. They're talking about, it's like, Light, think about it. Why are you still in there? If you're the protagonist, doesn't that make L supposed to be in there? Like he's the antagonist? And he's like, no, because he's a villain, right? And it's interesting. Like at that point in the series Anime House, not even just like it kind of like it parallels the real series Death Note, where he transfers from being the central focal main character, the hero in a sort, or anti-hero, to just being a villain, just being an antagonist, straight up. And no, and that transition just like a very sudden, like, oh my god, that was really interesting to see. Yeah, I just want to shout out, like, they did that, and well, obviously it's weird. It makes it seem like a really exciting hype deal that it's like Gear 5. And I think this did come out a little ways before the episode dropped. I don't know for sure. I think so. I don't really know though. But friggin' they had overtaken playing during his transformation, which is similar to the anime. I was like, wow, did they predict that? But then yeah, like I actually kind of their interpretation of Gear 5 is like he's like the Joker. Like he just laughs all the time, like he's like this weird, I don't know. It wasn't quite the right characterization, I think, for Gear 5 Luffy. It's certainly not like completely wrong or something. I can understand where they're coming from for sure. But I think there was something kind of cool with Gear 5 in the anime. The way he still has this like infectious confidence to him. Like the fucking let's settle this, and he just has this like the Kexiose. Like whatever. It's not just him like giggling like the Joker the whole time. It's sort of just like this. There's some quiet moments to Gear 5, but he's just like, I don't know. It's hard to describe off script. So I think there was some weird things with that, and it didn't feel like it was a blowout of like he's defeating all the villains or something. It didn't feel like the hype kind of like big fight moment that this feels like it's teasing almost. It felt still more plot that they couldn't quite fit into Anime House 7. But that's okay. That's fine. Still enjoyed it. Cool. Damn, hour-long digest got hands. Aaron Dylan Kearns. Oh, I'm sorry. Paradise Rediscovered. The Truth of Limitless Paradise. I'm so sorry I don't know the artist's name off the top of my head, but it's the same director and animator as Midori, Shoujo Tsubaki. Holy shit. So, I mean, this was, really fascinating. With contact with the original creator, I think. They were, like, with permission with this, they seemed to be in contact with the guy that they're talking about, the Japanese creator they're talking about, with somebody narrating a lot of his perspective, and just the situation happening where, a lot of his stuff has been kind of lost and is kind of trapped in a lot of his lot is trapped in sort of the theater auditorium experience, and that actually has to do with, it seems, I could be misinterpreting things. A lot of that choice of having this animation be exclusive to an in-person, almost haunted house kind of experience is his part of his rejection of commercial anime, of like the whole like OVA and like the video boom and stuff like that, and the increasing commercialization. That was really interesting. It was like, that's kind of a way to wrestle it back almost, not letting it like go out in the ether or whatever, and be commercialized or whatever. And not that this video mentioned it, but it actually kind of reminded me of the way that his work was being treated last year or the year before, where a lot of YouTubers and TikTokers kind of made a trend out of watching Shoujo Tsubaki as a challenge, as like a you'll never make it through this thing, you'll be too repulsed and turn it off. I guess it's exposure, but like it was just really disappointing to see, discouraging, I think. But I don't know how you feel about it. You could probably not give a shit. Maybe, I don't know. But what I really liked that Aaron did is just like dive into his other work, his greater work here, and describing it, and not just kind of like copy paste put online, whatever. But exposing us to this. Exposing us is certainly a word choice in this instance. Not like, I need to be clear. I love Shoujo Tsubaki. I love Meter. Like that movie blew my mind. Like really incredible shit. And his animation is something else. It's it's really evocative and challenging and mystifying, and it's just the coolest, really. So I really liked this dive about. It wasn't like a bio of his necessarily. It was just like a slice. It felt like just one, like a glimpse, with the given that this anime of his, Limitless Paradise, has finally become somewhat watchable and available in some capacity. Then using that news of that to kind of describe what it is and his situation and everything, all of that is really interesting. I just really enjoyed this. Not much else to say, I guess. It just felt very informative, packed with detail, with like information, and like not a lot in the ways of jokes or whatever. It just felt like very much like, here's his whole deal, here's his situation kind of deal. I just really liked it, yeah. If you want more of me, I did get something out this month, but it wasn't on my channel. It was a Spilling the Milk feature. I was very, very grateful to them, because I knew they were going to react to the One Piece live action. And I'm like, is there room for one more? I'd be very interested. So I was able to watch the first episode for the first time with them. And it was on Twitch, so that there's a VOD, and that's their whole pipeline. And just being a guest on that was really nice to see, like, after them doing this for 3 years now, something like that. They've really refined it and have gotten so good at bouncing off each other and riffing and perfecting that magic that, like, I knew that they had, that I was like, that is so good. And there's like that, and now they're just easily the most successful out of any of our initial group. Like that not to say I'm part of an initial, I knew I was kind of a latecomer to their that server that was created, and all of us were in for a long time, and you know, we had some of us go to 100K. Now these guys are at 600K. And like to be in the server where they would show us clips, and then, like, you know, all of us were supporting them with Jack and Core, and then their channel got completely taken down and removed, and having to like inherit this other channel. And to see that journey, it's just so weird and cool. And it's very surreal. But like seeing their process and everything with like setting up with Twitch and like doing these you know, certain factors to make the episode work and everything. I'm sorry about I had my my footage late. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, the episode turned out really good, I think. I mean, I don't know in terms of their performance metrics or like their you know, what they think in terms of like, because it was funny. I think Jack mentioned that like their episode with YMS was like weird or low energy or I don't know. He mentioned something about it, and they're like, no, it was good. And then I did watch it. Like they collab with YMS of all people, which is amazing. I just like was like really happy and excited to watch it. I think it turned out really good. It seems, at least for the final video. Yeah, a certain thing is like, I'll save in the edit type of thing. Not to give a lot of inside baseball, I guess. That's my experience with this video. I'm not gonna be like, but I liked the part where they told that joke. It's like, I think the edits were good. I remember there's certain like and I'm rewatching it, like there were certain jokes that I remember us saying or certain people saying or whatever. I was like, I guess it couldn't make it into the final video or something. And so that's always interesting to see like someone's interpretation or somebody's edit of an experience that you had. Always makes it, it's a very interesting type of thing. I guess as someone who's, you know, self-made their own stuff, right? Edited everything that I'm in a lot of the time. It's similar to Funebure, the final product that he put out with Mike, our collab with the drawing thing that we did. It's a similar kind of surrealness, I guess. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time. Thank you guys so much for having me. That was so nice. And then yeah, I really like this installment, and I liked One Piece live action for what it's worth. Hope you guys, it was funny. It was funny reception. The peak power system from Kaiser Shounen. Shonen's peak power system. Warning trigger analysis. World trigger. You know, I've seen a couple World Trigger videos, and there's something about them. I don't know. It's like there's just something so weird with describing the things that are happening and the situations and stuff. Like it does one fight analysis, which I appreciated, but then all I could think of was just like, who are these people? Are they even main characters? Like this, and then like, how is it different from like they're competing in a school? They're not dying. Like I feel like there was a lot of context I was missing as a new time viewer that haven't seen this before. And obviously, like this is the type of power system that really likes detail and like nuance, and it was like this in the middle of all the different things and whatever. And I guess I'm taking it from the perspective of someone who wrote a video about. I didn't put it out. Yeah, it's a shelved. Future, we'll see. I'd like to. Of Battle Shonen and the power systems, and you know, I will say at the very least, you got me to watch all of your video. I tried. The first 10 seconds of Jeff's power, Battle Shonen his power system video. He's like, there's nothing that gets the fan frothing at the mouth like a good power system. I'm just like, numb. I'm numb. You know. Oh well. No, but I think you were able to like grab the audience a bit better with your kind of like your more abrasive charisma. That makes sense, abrasive charisma. And passion you have for this particular series that it just seems to drum up in people. Although it is weird that like I just have this weird dissonance about it. I don't know what it is. I've seen a couple World videos now, and World Trigger videos, and just like, yeah, okay. And it's nothing to do with your analysis. It's just something about the delivery of that, of the anime, I guess. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I enjoyed the video. I think it was thorough. I think it felt, but that's the thing, again, because I have so much dissonance, I don't know how thorough it really was. I didn't feel like I was like, wow, I really think I get the system now. I don't necessarily get that. I think it was sort of like a taste of it. And you allude to as much at the end of the video where it's like, oh, I'm not done. Oh, I'm going to talk more about it. And it's like, okay. To me, it's sort of like, I try, not always succeed, but when and I'm not saying this needs to apply to every single video, obviously not. But I think when I want to tackle a subject, I want to do it the best I can to where I don't have to talk about it again. I don't have to go over it in more detail or go over it a second time or anything like that. It feels like it can just be completely thorough. And, don't get me wrong, it probably was. But you know what it is with World Trigger? I guess it's just that, like, apparently there's so much variety, and all the characters can kind of do anything. Not anything, but, like, they have so much versatility, and there's so much particulars to it that, like, I guess as a viewer I was craving that thoroughness. I guess I was craving that, like, there's some of that where it's like you can be this, or this. But like the scale, they're like, oh, they have a power level of this number. I guess maybe this is the case as a reader of the series. I don't know if they clarify this somewhere or whatever. And I feel like I wouldn't have these sorts of nagging questions if I was reading it, because it's like, that's intentional that they're putting it in this way. But when it's an analysis video like this, where you don't have to say the beginning of the story, you don't have to set up anything. You can kind of just go into it the way you do. It was like the number would show up, and I'm just like, okay, you're like, that's a low number. And I'm like, okay, but like, what's a high number? 10? 15? Like, what's the range here? I gotta have a perspective, a context. And I'm not being like, oh, you weren't thorough enough. I have no idea. As someone who has not seen World Trigger, right? I guess it was, to me, like, the sheer volume of this cast and the way that this series seems to be structured, which is very battle. I'm just kind of just like, okay, all right. I don't know. I have this dissonance with it, I guess, with World Trigger specifically. From what I've been seeing of it through osmosis, including in this video, I guess. So it's nothing to do with you. It's nothing to do with, like, you could have done better or something like that. But it's just, I guess it was like that perspective. So, I think this could potentially be valuable to you as someone who's like excited to talk more about World Trigger. So it's like maybe kind of bringing that. I'm not saying like you must do as I say. no, not like that. Yeah. No. I think there's some. I don't know. There's something to be said. Take whatever you want out of this, I guess. As always. What's the use of saying that, James? It's like, you know what? I don't know. I'm talking out my ass. I don't know how. This is very awkward. It's all right. I did enjoy the video. I think it's just I didn't have the most like profound connection to it in the same way I may have if it was like laid out in a different way. I don't know how. Maybe sort of like you know what I would say actually to what the way it's not just the power system itself, and you may have said this in the video, I'm sorry, but it's not simply the power system itself that can be interesting, but it's how the system is integrated and introduced. I think you obviously say that it was like, yeah, it doesn't mean jack shit if it's all this complicated shit, there's no story to it. but I more so mean like, what's the genius? No, maybe there isn't any of the first game. What is the first time that we're introduced to triggers? How are we introduced to it as a reader? In like chapter what? Like when is it introduced? Is it like Nen, which is kind of like later on, or is it like right at the beginning, which is like all you know is he ate the gum fruit, now he has rubber powers and he can't swim. That's it. It's like, oh, right. But then that's just saying the rule basically, but it's different from the first time the audience sees Luffy use the gum power. In the manga, it's chapter 1, where he eats it, and there's no explanation. He's just eating a fruit, and then suddenly his arm is stretching, and they're like, "Oh no, Luffy, you ate the fruit! You're a rubber man! You can't swim the rest of your life! Oh no!" And like the next time you see him do anything is because it's the illusion of like his strongest pistols. He punches the sea monster as like the first major thing, and that's a cool big moment. In the anime, I'm really a big fan of the first time you see him do it. He's already kind of dodging things, and he's showing he's very capable and strong and smart combat wise. He is smart in general. He's not like a doofus or something. You know what I mean. But then he catches onto the mast and kind of catches the people that are chasing him off guard because they just kind of see the arm, and he's like, "Ah, gotcha," and whacks into him, and that's the first time you see it. Is that rocket? I personally really like, and then like Kobe's like, "What the fuck?" Like Dominique and that sort of thing. It's the way it's shown. So with World Trigger, what is the first battle that we're like, this is triggers, and it's like it does that? What makes it interesting that the audience is like, all right, and then keep reading, right? I guess having that full scale picture is maybe what I would have wanted. Not that it was a bad thing that you didn't have it, of course, but I guess that's just something to consider because it gives the audience more perspective. Obviously, that's some leg room to summarize all that, but I guess it was like if you have the first fight and then you're like, okay, that's how they build up the first one. Compare this to where it comes in the 8th fight or something like that. Now we're at this stage where it kind of what makes it peak, I think, is the implementation, not just the story and how it's used, but the way it's given to the viewer. I guess I don't know. Maybe you do say in the video, and I'm just blowing smoke up my ass. Sorry, that's what we do here. Anyway, I did enjoy the video though. Yeah. Hartvigen! Oh my god! No way! It's a 2022 hentai in a nutshell. And I think Hartvigen's in this like Gigic 2012 phase. Not really, actually. I should take that back because I was like, oh, his last couple uploads were just the in a nutshells. But no, you see, he uploads other things. Okay, come on. But it was just been a long time, and he obviously acknowledges it. But that's okay. And I like that he's I just love seeing him again because it's like it's similar to again animebackwhen or TheCynicClinic or BaronJ, where it's just like it's just good to see them upload again and just to get like this little life update. I was like, yeah, I finished my masters and I have this going on and seeing the progression, I guess, as a there's no parasocialness going on here, right? Right? No, but like it's as we go on, as we age, as we progress through this and everything, and YouTube, whatever. This stuff doesn't last forever, I guess. So I don't know why I'm thinking so mortality now. It was just good to see him again. It was just good to see another upload and everything, and it's encouraging and exciting. His humor is so fun, is so on point, and it's always so admirable how brave he can be, of using his real face and using his to be the butt of the joke, really, of just the joke of just the cum vacuum, and the punchline isn't necessarily to do with the show or some random meme. it's his face. It's him doing like how ridiculous this concept is. Kind of like it's not even like a self-deprecating thing so much. I mean, it can be. It's more like embracing the joke, embracing the over the top ridiculousness. Because I think probably not actually. I've been reading the Anime Encyclopedia a long time. And there's a lot of porn reviews, a lot of discussion about porn, what they're about, what they do, and it's it's an education for me because I haven't seen pretty much any of them. But yeah, I always really appreciate Hartvigen's perspective on hentai because he really is coming at it from as a fan, as a like not even just like a deviant kind of whatever, but like reads the source material, knows the studios. I'm definitely regurgitating and parroting what I've said in previous entries for him, but it was just like I think that stood out to me here was just how often he would put himself out there on screen and became part of the joke, because I feel like people criticizing or talking about it in some serious elevated way, I think it's important to have that kind of self-awareness, I guess. In a way that's just like, yeah, I get it, but it's like it makes the criticism really ring true, where it's just like, no, I really do want it to be better. Or it's like, yeah, I do find a problem with this and this sort of thing. You're just like, oh no, and being mature in that regard, if that makes any sense. Well, while simultaneously not being that mature, I guess. Yeah, and the balance is really interesting of like taking this stuff very seriously and yet like having this incredible sardonic, I don't know what the word is. It's like taking it with such humor. It's so funny. This video is so funny, right? But still being a good overview in a constructive way, weirdly enough. As much as I don't think fans should be considering them as any kind of constructive, because it's not like they can really influence the sort of what gets made or whatever. But yeah, anyway, just really enjoyed that. Yeah. So Justin Sevakis, he was able to upload 6 videos of commentary from none other than Jonathan Clements about Gunbuster. So I checked out the first episode. I didn't really have I didn't own the series on Blu-ray yet, and didn't have it on hand or whatever, downloaded or anything. And I wasn't going to go out of my way to download something, and I would have felt kind of icky about it, actually. In this particular instance, I guess. So I just listened, but thankfully what's nice about it is that it includes the anime's audio. It's not just his voice, and you don't quite know. Like, there's no visuals. No visuals whatsoever in the video. But you do hear... So if you've seen the first episode of Gunbuster enough times to know, like, oh yeah, it's that scene, or you can kind of picture it. And obviously Jonathan is describing what's happening occasionally, so it's followable in that way. But what's obviously really valuable, it is worth just listening to on its own, like as an audio thing, because his commentary is that insightful and playful, not very taking itself super seriously. Not that there's a lot of deprecation or anything, but there's a lot of earnest, like, yeah, my ringtone was one of the sound. There was a sound album of not just the soundtrack, but some vocal stuff, and it had Norio Matsumoto, the voice of the coach, going like, "Your message will be delivered," and whatever. And he's like, "Yeah, that was my ringtone for a long time," like saying stuff like that. And obviously, what really made it matter to me was towards the beginning of him saying, "This is my all-time favorite anime." Great to know. Like, oh yeah, like it characterizes people so much for me when I know what their favorite is. I don't necessarily need a top 10 or top 5 or a smattering of favorites or something. And it's also okay if it changes a lot. If your all-time at the moment is Ava, sure, and if it's something else, sure. But that means it characterizes you at that moment in time. It shows this is like, currently my all-time is this. And unless your all-time is just the last thing you watched every single time, and then it's like, okay, I don't really get a sense of who you are. But this was just sort of like really not that it characterizes him one way or like, oh, kind of shitty, or like, ooh, kind of go to taste, or it was just like, that's cool to not just be like, to not just that it was Gunbuster, that he attested that it was Gunbuster. It's like, this is it. This is my favorite, and I'm so lucky to talk about it for 3 hours. Like that's sick. And I was like, I'm so down to watch all of this. I didn't, not yet. I do actually want to watch Gunbuster alongside it with him. But from just the first episode, it was wonderful. It was really, really great. It's very insightful, has a lot of and a lot of like, felt very conversational. There was a lot of stuff that was like, look, I don't want to cut the balance that I have to figure out is to not make this feel like, oh, in the manga or in this other, because he's such a fan that like he's experienced all the extra stuff that's come out of this franchise. Not necessarily Die Buster, but like all the other stuff, like kind of like the Gunbuster ethos that, drama CDs, whatever, right? He has the ability to talk on those things, but he's like, I need to make sure I can still make it be like, this is a great standalone piece. You just need to watch Gunbuster, which I agree with. You just need to watch. You don't need to like the superfluous, like the extra bits or whatever. But they felt, so in that way, it felt very personal, sociable, and informative, and casual in a way that it didn't feel like it was really regimentally scripted or anything. It felt very natural, I guess, if that's all that alls, I think. Maybe that was the other one. I don't know. Yeah, I just thought it was fantastic. And I'm very happy that Justin uploaded it. Thank you very much for that. Because he told me about it, and I was like, oh, that's going to be so good. And unfortunately, they couldn't include it on the disc. Is what it is, but that doesn't stop them. Thank you very much. I was just like, yeah, I think that was really great. Are my eyes getting like dark or whatever? Like, I swear, I'm not possessed by a demon. Kaito John reference, sorry. Colleen's Manga Rex. Do I belong? The problem with anime tourism. I really get what she's coming from. And I feel really bad to like say if I have to say anything negative. Because I know I'm not on her good side. And there's a very few people that are still on her side and everything. I'm happy to see Danny is a really close colleague with her. And I feel bad that this has been her experience. It's hard for me to give this any criticism of like, I thought the extended metaphor of this land of manga that she's touring and going to different countries and exploring different facets of the community, and each time getting kicked out or being kind of driven out for one way or for one reason or another. I want to be honest with myself and with my audience here, and with Colleen if she is somehow watching this. It felt a little contrived to me. It felt a little reductive, because some of the aspects you're saying is correct, that like there is a lot of overlap, and I think it's reductive to like blame the whole city when it's clearly a number of actors that are only amassing because she's getting bigger as a creator, and she says that as much in the video. But it does bother me when it's like the thing that I'm trying to do that I don't think very many others are trying is genuine community outreach. Maybe I'm not doing genuine community outreach because it's unsolicited criticism or compliment, Sure. Fair enough. I don't ask permission to talk about any of these videos. Okay, yeah, fine, fair. But it's just disappointing to me, I guess. But the thing that was missing to me, again, it's like I really don't like criticizing this because it's like I'm just falling into exactly what she is complaining about here, and she has every right to make this kind of just like a laid back rant, just this her experience and stuff, and to the point where it's just like venting of like, I don't even feel welcome here. I don't even want to make videos anymore. I gotta leave altogether. And then she says at the end, "Don't worry, I'm not leaving." And like, you really made it sound like that, and I would be very disappointed if you did. Serious, like you really have such an incredible perspective and a minor perspective compared to everyone else. And it's like, we need people like you. I guess my thing, I first learned about Colleen because she was making kind of a stink, right? She was kind of making an us versus them, shonen shoujo. We're not getting, they're kind of causing a stir. And I'm not saying she isn't allowed to. I think that's cool. Like, I think you're standing up for what you believe in, right? And it's like, I don't feel like you're giving the whole picture. What have you made? What have you said? How have you conducted yourself that have brought people to making these comments about you? Not are you eat, but it's sort of just like what you put out is what you put back in. If you are being confrontational and abrasive, is it because I'm this? Is it because I'm from this? Is it because I'm saying this or whatever? Oh, the lightest bit of criticism? Is it the lightest bit of criticism? You don't really have to think about that. I'm not like, I don't have a particular thing that you said that I have this big hang up over and you should debate me or something. No. I can't even think of I literally don't even have any of that baggage or anything. They're like, I'm never going to forgive her for saying this in this video. Like, I cannot think of anything. I just found it really sad that this has been your experience, because it is what you put into it. It's who you follow on Twitter. It's who you talk to on Discords. And it's if you decide to make videos that can reach a larger audience beside yourself, you have to understand if like what you made colors what impression. If you're being like, this is trash, what kind of audience does that attract? And I'm not saying you made something like that. I don't know. Like, I don't know what warranted some of these things. It might be completely unwarranted stuff, like you're who you are, right? Which is stupid and sad. And plenty of other creators get that shit too. It's stupid, and I hate it. But like, I guess what we can do is continue to advocate and validate and stick together. The way you talked about MangaTube, it was sort of this like, I'm sorry that was your experience. If only there was some, I don't know how we can make it any better. I don't know what happened. But I guess what I'm saying is like, there could be some introspection as well. And I'm not saying you deserve any of this. No. I don't know. I feel like every time I have to bring a little bit of your criticism, I have to reel it back 10 times because I'm worried if you're going to take it the wrong way. And me being this sort of stepping on eggshells around talking about you, that sucks. I don't want to do that. But I feel like I have to. If this is if this is like what you're expressing, right? I feel it because I'm trying to be an empathetic person. But this stood out to me because I've heard of the idea of an anime tourist and being used as I'm pretty sure I've used it once or twice. It's a gatekeeping elitist term. And it was so funny, the around the same time this is happening on Twitter, the Eltingville Club, there's a comic series and there's a pilot for Adult Swim, got kind of a viral thing of just got a resurgence, a little bit of a meme as well, with like people kind of mimicking this like trivia off, right? I tried the comic. The comic's very wordy and it's like very busy. It was a little dense, but I was like, I can watch a 22-minute pilot. And that shit is so toxic. It is so mean and gross and putrid. These are just adjectives of the same word, I guess, but like, it really made me sick. And it's like that is the kind of thing that we're dealing with here. Maybe not in the same intensity. It's a little exaggerated, perhaps, for like if the guys are shoving everyone, like they're literally like being bullies, right? But at the same time, it's like, yeah, we are being bullies online for sure. These are the kinds of, like, the people who call people anime tourists are not much different from these losers who are pettily, we're like pathetic characters. And so that those sorts of things sort of aligned with me when I was thinking like how much disgust I had for the depictions of these characters. Not like, oh, you're painting nerds in a bad light. They're right. No, they're correct that I think these nerds do kind of exist. And just sort of shining mirror and just sort of like it's like, oh yeah, it's a reality check. It's like, oh my god, I do not want to be like that. Yeah, connecting that with what your experience of like tourist, despite having to prove yourself. You don't have to prove. You shouldn't need to prove yourself that like I grew up on this title. Here's a picture of me when I was 6 cosplaying this character. You know, it's like, man, you don't. I'm not saying like, oh, you don't have to do this. Our community's fine. I'm saying like you shouldn't have to do this. And it sucks that you do, because apparently these people don't believe you. But even if I don't think they're going to care one way or another. They're just going to say it if you have the wrong opinion about something, right? And then those guys are dummies, right? But it's hard to ignore a lot of dummies. A lot. It's just like, oh, they keep coming. It is just sort of like finding your people. It's finding your people. I hope you find your people. Your Discord server, your patrons, if you have. I don't know if you do any. I could be wrong. It was depressing towards the end, and I'm a very gullible person. I take this stuff pretty seriously. So it's like when you're like, I'm gonna leave anti-manga altogether. It really did make me feel like, oh, she's done. That sucks. I'm just like, but I hope this was cathartic. I hope that, you know, what you say at the end is true. That's like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. You still got to deal with me. Yeah. And look, I've talked about your videos a number of times. I've liked several of them. I've been critical of others. So I don't know. As usual, speaking to the void, probably. Good catch now. Good catch. Yeah. Oh my god, hey, it's Mickey Joe. I've never talked about Joe on this channel, because he's a theater YouTuber. TheZtube, theater tube, play tube, musical tube. But here he is talking about Death Note, the musical. He is a professional theater critic for London, and his reviews have been so insightful and interesting. Obviously, I have no connection to West End, but like, it's just as a theater performance major, I miss it sometimes. So it's always just great to it was just cool to see this crossover. So I'm like, of course I want to talk about it. Digest, yeah. Death Note the musical, and I wasn't sure he was familiar with it. I always really like his format because he gives his review score on the title, and that just gives it an expectation going in, which is interesting. He's very thorough, very professional, very empathetic to the process. It doesn't feel like he's very scathing for no reason. He's very studied. He very much feels like, he's not just like some rando that like just, I'm in theater. It feels like he's like, yeah, this author did the book for this, and this does feel like this sort of thing. And he's listing off a lot of different stuff, very encyclopedic almost. And doesn't you have too much in the ways of visuals, but it's whatever's available, right? The same with any theatrical performance. I like that he opens a lot of his reviews. He's like, but first, here's the curtain call. So he almost always records the curtain call, which is really nice. Kind of like proof he's there, but also just like this exclusive footage that, he can't film the show, which is fine. But it's just like something he can do that it contributes. It's like, yeah, he's like proof almost. Not that he has to prove himself. Anyway, I think his sections are interesting. It is obviously a standard review where it's like section by section. But I like that he spends a lot of the first part really actually summarizing it. But it's compelling because he's not showing any of it. So he actually does have to just use his words and be on camera most of the time and describing it in his own way. So I think there's something that like is different about it, or just makes this like, it despite being about, the summary is Death Note, I'm actually kind of compelled to see how he describes it, because it's reflective like, oh, did the musical do anything different? Or like, how different is it, or whatever. It doesn't seem like he had any familiarity with the property. He has seen some anime and manga in his past, and I like that he pointed out towards the beginning that the playbill was actually printed backwards, like right to left. You read it right to left like a manga. That's pretty cool. But so he's not a complete alien to to this world. But he hasn't seen death. I think he's seen a little bit, or I don't know. He didn't really have an intimate connection with it, so he's not coming from that perspective of comparing it to the series or anything. But he engages with his audience a little bit of like, I didn't think the female characters were all that well written. We're all that strong, because he gives these examples, and it's like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. What do you think? What is fans of the series? What would you say? And then the top comment is like, yeah, no, they're not good. So it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, I just really liked hearing about it from him and seeing that this was a thing, and seeing from this perspective. I just want to shout out to you guys in case you didn't know about it. So yeah, great looking out. Garnt. New anime fans need to watch this because what was the impetus for this? Yes, Michael B. Jordan's. This is an old thing. He's kind of late to this aspect, I think. But like Michael B. Jordan putting out like this interviewer asked him is like, what would you recommend to a brand new anime fan? And he just kind of lists the big three and Hunter x Hunter and a lot of shonen. And Garnt's like, no way. Maybe Naruto, but no way would I recommend them One Piece. Why not? Why not? Why not? Your loss. No, but that's fair. I understand. But it was fun to so Alan made a PowerPoint for Garnt to present of the 10, or it's more like 16 or so. It's a list. It's a good chunk of anime to give newcomers, and I'm gonna go through it. Not like a super bit by bit, but like I wrote it down just to remind myself. His criteria at the beginning is very funny. It's good, which is like, yeah, that's fair. Okay. Hits fast and hard. Okay, so already it's like we should probably recommend them movies. He doesn't really recommend the movies. He recommends one movie, but okay. Still holds up. Yeah, great. So I don't know what that's supposed to mean, because he's obviously going to have some insecurity of like nostalgia, or because he doesn't know whether he's acclimated himself to with anime is somehow different. I don't know. It's not that different, to be honest with you. But maybe I'm just too acclimated to it. Still holds up, so it's like, oh, I already know what he doesn't put on here. Great. And no anime bullshit. And I'm like, what's that? Explain. What anime? And the only two things he says about what is anime bullshit to you? Panty shots and incest. Okay. Fair. Totally fair. I get it. Although it is interesting as how many the panty shot's really a pointed topic, because it's like, okay, but like if it shows panty, is that a difference from a panty shot, right? Because there are some shows that like they have that, but they're not really showing it in a way that's supposed to like, anime fan service, right? Yeah, I don't know. Like bullshit. Like, okay, plot twist. Like what? It's just he doesn't want uncomfortable topics, which is like, yeah, okay, but it's like some of the shows that he talks about, they're kind of morally interesting, or like there's certain things that kind of clash with what he's saying is what anime bullshit is. So I was like, I wasn't super vibing with that. And then no isekai. Just that as a rule, no isekai. Don't. Because his thing was just like, is there any isekai that has no anime bullshit? 12 Kingdoms. I haven't even seen 12 Kingdoms. Come on, Garnt. Come on. Fucking Escaflowne? What? Is a cat girl anime bullshit? I guess so. Guess I can't watch any fantasy. Like, the hell? I don't know. It's dumb. That's anime bullshit if you ask me. Not to say that I know what he's talking about with isekai. He's talking about Naroke. Not necessarily like isekai, like, oh, like Narnia. Okay? I understand the nuances. Okay? I understand. But anyway. But then it has a bonus that has a good dub and a low time commitment. So movies. Movies, Mike. All of these would be like, you just recommend the movies. Come on. And BobSamurai actually says as much in the video I'm going to talk about right after Garnt's. Where he's like, I just recommend the movies. I'm like, yeah. And it's like, here's all the movies. Anyway, I noticed that the montages in the video itself kind of went a little harder and had more interesting picks than I think almost every single entry that he does pick. He goes by categories. And no, the overall, of course I'm disappointed that the oldest thing he puts on here is Death Note. The oldest show, anime or movie, that he puts on this fucking list is from 2006. Attack on Titan, JJK, One Punch Man, Silent Voice, Hathaway's Flash. No, JK, it's Psychopaths. That was really funny because like he prefaces that Alan made the PowerPoint and it's like a group project. The guy does all the work. It was funny. And then it's funny that like he includes this joke, like Alan just like put Hathaway's Flash for sci-fi, and then like a bait pick, like Psychopaths instead. And then, you know, obviously Garnt is upset about that. And then for romance, Garnt does the exact same thing and baits the audience, be like, domestic girlfriend, oh no, it's Your Name. Like, I don't think any of these were poor choices, but they were very boring. And I get it, he's coming from a perspective of like, blind, I don't know anything about the person, where he was like, if I am going to recommend something, I first ask them what TV shows they like. Because if they like, I don't know, fucking The Wire or some other crime procedural, they're probably going to eat the shit out of Monster. Like, eat Monster's ass. That's gross. That's pretty gross. Sorry about that. You're not just going to recommend them Monster just like, you know, if they're just whatever. You know, he had a logic for Monster specifically. He's like, no, not Monster because it takes a little while to get going. No. Episode 1 of Monster, you have like the quandary in the first 5 minutes of like, you killed my husband. Like, oh, you know, like, it's good. It hits. I get it, like maybe between episode 1 and 5 where the next crazy thing happened. Like, sure, but like, come on. I was upset. Yeah, but it was funny. The build up that it was fun to watch for sure. The tension that he builds for his audience and his audience kind of donating in chat to like, watch Baki, right? Or some of these other titles. Him trying to like calm them down like school children or something. It was cute. But yeah, like Spy Family, Vinland Saga, okay. Yeah, cool. I actually did like, I think those were the most interesting picks actually. When he was like, oh, I was just thinking, what is the anime I show to my dad? What is the anime I show to my mom? Right? And people really clowned on him when he's like, for the mom show is Wolf Children. Everyone was like, furry show. Like, yeah, it does do that. It is a little weird. But see, like, that's the cool thing, right? That's what's cool about it. Like, him playing safe like this is safe. It's boring. It's not like, I don't know if it's getting into anime. I don't know, because it's like, yeah, these are good in a way, in some regard. But are they good to the, like, I would say that, I mean, there's some of these I haven't seen, but like, I could get the vibe that Vinland Saga is definitely going to make people like a lifelong anime fan. You know, I think Blacano, yeah, they're like, I gotta explore, I gotta check more of this shit out. I think so. Attack on Titan, probably. I've certainly seen it, of course. And One Punch Man, you know, it certainly was at the time. When it first came out, One Punch Man was such a sensation that like, and it's so anticipated and became such a buzz or whatever. And then when it came out, it was just this big crazy thing. Which, by the way, like, no anime bullshit. The mosquito lady from episode 1, I don't know. There's a little anime bullshit in One Punch Man, but like, that's okay. Come on, could be like a kind of a weird kind of, especially for how long Garnt's been in this fucking game. Are you serious, dude? Like, Spy Family for feel good, a safe pick. Not that it's not safe or so. Like, sure, it's safe, but like, I really think he has this distrust of like anime that he grew up with. I really do. And I'm like, well, what do you think we're here for? We turned out okay, right? Yeah, I know, it's funny. But I certainly wouldn't want to deprive a younger generation of the stuff that we grew up with. Or the same with the generations before. That's why I'm checking stuff out from the 90s and the early 2000s and the 80s and the 70s. And sometimes the 60s. It was just ReZero, Kaguya-sama. Cute girls doing good things, place further than the universe. All right, yeah. Okay, I'll give it to you. Or Bocchi the Rock. All right, cool. And then I was actually pretty happy he put a degeneracy category, and I was interested to see what he would pick. And he picks High School of the Dead. And I'm like, okay. That makes it the third Tetsuro Araki show. The first choice he does is Attack on Titan. And then, after JKJK's, Death Note. And then he does High School of the Dead at the end. 3 Tetsuro Araki series. Crazy. Maybe you should check out Gungrave. It was just like, there's things that are available on Crunchyroll that, you know, have aged pretty damn well. But like, you're gonna have this like, I already know he's gonna have this like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It was just disappointing to me, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't the most enthused about it. BobSamurai, the evolution of 1960s anime movies, ranked and reviewed. I really liked that he did like a tier list version, like a ranking like that, and the ranking was good. It was really good. Friggin' the 3 were Holes, Puss in Boots, 1001 Nights. I was like, yeah, dude, yeah! Did I have that as a great now? I feel like the more time has gone by and I've made that video, the more I'm like, no, that movie whips ass. Yeah, I was just really happy with the rankings, and it just had a lot of logic. It made sense. Those are the 2 same things, Shabes. You were being redundant. No, yeah, I think that his descriptions were really great. And again, exposing us to these titles, and also just like getting it make sense. Just getting supposed like, here's this title, here's this, because there was Dobutsu Takarajima, or like, yeah, it was Shin Takarajima, but Dobutsu Takarajima is 1971. That's technically Animal Treasure Island. But then this original one, which is from Tezuka, that has the animals and it's black. It's a TV special. I just read that in Encyclopedia. I think Bob was there for that one, actually. I don't know, maybe not. But I read that very recently, that article, talking about that particular title, and they kind of spoil the ending. I like that, knowing the ending just from hearing about it in the encyclopedia, and then hearing Bob's version of describing this title, perfect. It was really great because he was able to allude to what happens and how that kind of goes in this particular direction without directly spoiling it. I don't think he directly spoiled it. He didn't certainly show it, but he implies it with his words, right? And he's honest. He's brutally honest with this sort of stuff, and I like that he's still very professional, even when there's a title that was like the one that was an F. Him describing that one, he doesn't really dig into it the same. He's not like a piece of shit or something like that. He gives it a lot of classy insults, where he was just like, you'd think the 10th year of Toei films they do something special. Instead, we got this movie. It colors it, right? It does give it this negative impression, but it's in a way that's digestible. It doesn't give you intense whiplash for me. It gives it this sort of just like class. It's tactful, right? It was just really smart. I just really liked it, and yeah, I think the whole format was great, and I just love, all the Bob videos are food. It's I'm looking forward to the next meal. It's great. love your shit, seriously. I'm gonna admit, Joe, I didn't rewatch the video when it when you first showed it to me, and I haven't rewatched it. I actually watched a bit with my parents because I was in the dumps about my video, and then I was like, I made it alongside this guy's video, and they're like, oh really? So they watched it with me. I watched like halfway through, and they were starting to kind of rib on it almost, kind of like to encourage me to put myself up. But then they just got lost. They're like, oh yeah. I'm like, no, yeah, it's good. It is good. I have all my notes still from the time when I, the one timestamp like 9/29/19. Just the video is such a vibe, dude. It's such a perfect representation of this game for the soundtrack you use, which isn't perfectly the soundtrack of the game. It's of the same influence, but it's like instrumentations of other Zelda tracks that are a little more lively, a little more for a video essay, but aren't out of character. Sorry, they aren't out of character for the type of game or whatever. Loved that. And yeah, just the polish and attention to detail you have towards the beginning, and even throughout the whole video, a lot of different small edits and stuff. You slaved your ass on this. So I think it's the longest video you've made. And yeah, like I get it. The reception has been lukewarm, but Joe, at least it's doing better than your last 3 videos, and about to be your last 4th video. It's climbing. It's doing okay. Look, I mean, it's not a pop off. Like, sure, it's not work down the toilet or something. Like, come on. I just want to encourage you that it's like, but I also don't want to devalue your own feelings about it. Be like, no, it's a good video. Come on, because I got that and I feel like shit for my video. And people could probably say the same about my video, but it was like, no, come on, it's doing okay. Whatever, move on, it's fine. Yeah, there was a lot of detail and attention and attention to detail. It was there, and I was just like, that'd be funny, so I'm just gonna say it. I'm just cracking myself up, and I don't know how good this is for the audience. Sorry, fellas. This is just a session with me and Joe. Dare I say that my criticisms of your video might as well, right? The things was, I wrote in my notes that it's tricky to call Nausicaa the progenitor of Studio Ghibli as a studio and as a work, because the movie itself is such a culmination of Miyazaki's 15 years of experience. Heidi's a really big step for him. Conan is a big step after that. Panda Co Panda before Heidi. Holes before Panda Co Panda. Even Animal Treasure Island, like little, really working backwards with experience after experience. And obviously seeing his talent and everything. So it was a bit of a script moment of like, he's kind of saying something to say something. But it's not a big deal. It's just something that was interesting to me and made me think about Miyazaki as a creator and his legacy and where everything places and stuff. Obviously, Nausicaa is a huge step for him. But I gotta give him like a compliment sandwich. I'm gonna have something under the other one. It's going by the order of my notes. The thing you were saying about the Dark Souls discourse with video games, where everything's the Dark Souls of this, very similar with Ghibli, where this game is like a Studio Ghibli game or whatever, and the criticism of that, where it's so reductive to both the game and Ghibli, because you're not appreciating the nuances and the things that they're actually delivering, or you kind of have this false impression or this impressionistic painting of what a Ghibli film is, kind of like what an AI would generate, like if you put in Ghibli film, right? Which I think is, not that he was saying that, but I guess the connection with Dark Souls discourse and Ghibli discourse, perfect. Really loved that. And generally, obviously, like, our videos are similar with each other, it's the same topic. You cover the game way more extensively, and its context not just within the franchise and its relationship with Breath of the Wild, of course, but even just video games in general. And yeah, I say like, oh, this is like most video games. But yeah, yours just has this wider scope and more thorough scope, and obviously it reflects it in the runtime. It's not just gassing it up. It's not just empty air, as much as it would be okay if it was, because it's just your vibes and your craft and your tone, like vibe and tone, I think. Yeah, I would watch 40 minutes even if it was full of hot air, right? It's pretty tasty hot air, actually. This is nice. I don't mind this. It says, anyway, but yeah, and I did mention to you the power, wisdom, courage analog, where it's just like, yeah, it's a lot like Ghibli's characters with the 3 power, wisdom, courage, and I was like, because a lot of the part of what the importance of the Triforce, what makes it interesting, is not just that it's 3 pieces, but it's 1 compared with 3 connected together. There's a relationship between Ganon, Link, and Zelda, and Ganon and Link and Zelda and the 3 of them. There's a relationship with the group, and they have different dynamics with each other. And just naming 3 characters that are named or important in these movies that vaguely represent power or wisdom or courage, when a lot of the time they kind of represent a myriad of them. Because when you think about it, the Laputa one, I think the image you show with Mushka putting his hands on the 2 of them and then showing the Triforce there, such a convincing image until you think about it for 2 minutes. Oh, because Mushka's intellectual wisdom, whereas Sheeta actually has the power. She's not all that smart necessarily, but she has the actual power. So it's kind of different. She's not wisdom because she's the girl, even though it works perfectly. Anyway, no, but I think it's cool that you're bringing all that to the forefront and trying it. You're trying. I'm sorry. That's so bad. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll give you another one. I have to give you a compliment sandwich. You're getting another bread under there. Just save it. It's good a video, I swear. No, the Ma concept, with a quote with Miyazaki and talking about the concept of Ma with the spaces and how it's like you need that kind of like the time in between the hand claps. You could just clap your hands a bunch. So smart, connecting it to Zelda and actually giving a term for it. Because I do have that kind of overlap talking about it in my video, referring to the Mononoke scene, the montage. That's Ma, but I didn't know the word for it. So there you go. Anyway, yeah, it's just excellent. I enjoyed the video. I have the qualms. That's okay. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Great job. Genki dashite! I have to say that to myself, too. It's just like, I'm certainly one to talk. That's okay. We'll be miserable together. In defense of Steven Universe, as well as the follow-up of Lily Orchard's video on Steven Universe is terrible, and here's why. I'm hiding in private. Got a banger, got the bolster, got the surge of support, got the stuff I would certainly like. I'm sorry I keep making this about me. Whatever. Oh, we're recording for 2.5 hours now, so this is what it is. Oh man, this is great. So this is kind of a unscripted, feels unscripted. There's a weird, interesting combination of like unscripted where it's clearly the VOD where he's recording himself as he's watching it and pausing as he's correcting things, but then he has it in such a smooth way where he's able to pause, maybe say something, include certain bits or dialogue or whatever, but then he can expand off of it, maybe write something. I don't know if some of it's written or maybe it's re-recorded or said a different way, but it is in such a like yeah, and that comes with the, that's because he's able to with being off camera, he's able to have that audio editing and kind of have that illusion, I guess, where it's one big stream. Like, I know exactly what I'm going to say. And now, but I was also saying that, like, if the majority of it's unscripted, it's very unnoticeable, very impressive. And I complimented him when I messaged him that, like, the articulateness that he's able to have with these arguments and evidence and stuff like that. It feels a lot like it's a lot of practice being on stream and talking for a long time, and without stumbling. But obviously, audio editing, connect with all that, which you can do, and I can't necessarily because it's all the camera's right here, so I can't re-record, which is probably a good thing. I would probably be very pessimistic and particular and perfectionist, and these would never come out. Never ever So congratulations on the reception. It's been very highly positive and warranted. It was really cool seeing on Twitter, like, someone clipping your video and it going viral in its own regard. That was really cool. Like, it's just, like, really funny. And I remember that moment too of just, like, imagine making a scene this sinister. I love that, and that's just, like, really encouraging to see. Yeah, congrats. I just wanted to shout that out. Big moment for a fellow anime YouTuber, one of us. The longest video by AlexEnterprises, the genius of Monster, just over an hour 1. Very sexy time code. I don't know if I have a thing with sexual attraction to YouTube time codes. No. I just have the look, right? The thumbnail, the title, and the length of the video is a factor, right? I think so, at least sometimes. If it's triple digits, right? Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, bro. I've watched several of your videos. I wouldn't say a lot because, sometimes I'm not in the mood for your slow delivery or kind of your coverage of things is always not like the most like I can pass and take a leave or whatever. And I'm sorry to be brutally honest, which is me as a viewer or whatever. But obviously I'm going to check this out if it's Monster because I love Monster and it's over an hour. But I did go into this with knowing about you and the way you talk, the way your delivery and your presentation being very minimal, dry, kind of efficient, right? I'm like, can I do this for a whole hour? I wasn't sure. And I am saying that. I am saying that to really emphasize that I am so happy this was such an easy watch. Probably my favorite video you've ever made. So genius in its own right. Because you don't really focus on Monster necessarily. What really got me hooked and sold almost instantly was that you don't talk about Monster, you talk about Master Keaton. That's so cool. That is such a power move. I loved it. And I was like, oh, I'm in. Oh, I'm so in. And because then I was like, I didn't really look at I looked at the time caps, afterwards, like Omasamu Maruyama and then anime and then manga. But then the approach you had to each one felt very thorough and out of the box. It didn't feel like you were relying on plot synopsis. You weren't. You barely talked about the plot, which was great. So I don't need to hear about the plot about Monster, right? And you very well could have. You see an hour-long video of the genius of Monster. That's not just anime YouTube that's going through that. A lot of YouTubers are doing that, right? Because that's the algorithm of, like, make this big fucking video, whatever. I will not... There is certain YouTubers that I'm aware of that are doing that in our space. And I don't want to make it be a dick about it or make a big fucking deal out of it. But, it's... But look, I'm certainly guilty of doing that too. Just like this really close fight analysis, like plot summary. I don't know. Really close. I'd like to think that I'm different, but I'm just built different. No. I get it. I think there was a concern of that going in. Not just that I don't think you specifically would have done that. my concerns of me committing to watching an hour of it from you was from other perspectives. But I can also see that from people, and that's another it's another compounding reason why this was such an exciting video to watch. Just because it was coming from a completely left field angle that is additive and new and informative and interesting. It was maybe not all the most constructive or relevant sometimes. Like, I think the sections with Masao Moriyama kind of veered or didn't feel quite relevant all the time. But that's okay. Because at that point, by the time I get through the Masao Moriyama thing, I'm hooked. And it's like, I don't really care if you have to go into like analysis of the character or whatever. And sometimes you're describing things in more detail, like Another Monster or the Magnificent Steiner and some of the stories by Berthold, if you guys the children's author's name. You go into a little more tangents like that, but like those are interesting. That isn't just like an analysis of their characters or something, or the plot structure. I just think that like your thoughts on that particular manga release of like, I really like the page feel and how they do this and how they things stack, like appreciating that's really nice. And that's something that I agree adds to the genius and the mystique and the prestige of this series. It's not just like this smart thing. It is something with a lot of craft and care. And you're really exploring all those peripheral details that make it up, and not necessarily like, whoa, plot twist, whoa, like the things that you could talk about with Monster's story or characters that make it genius, right? But I just think that the out of the box approach here just made it really exciting, to where, again, even when you were kind of talking mundanely about a certain section or area, I was still really invested, and it was such an easy watch for me. So I said that I hope the other not as nice things I said about your videos in this section bolster what I'm saying here, that I'm just like, I am genuinely really happy. I don't even want to say surprised though, because it really was the delivery I was expecting, the packaging and editing and format I was expecting from you. It was just the focus that I'm just like, yes, he nailed it, or just like, yes, that's so much what like I would have wanted to see. It's similar to the videos I want to make with Ninku, or that I have made with Ninku and with Manga Sekai. It's called the Madhouse Anime at War with Itself, where you're not really learning about what it's about. You kind of are. You certainly absorb that. It's in there. But it's more so about the broader context, what it really does, and getting an understanding of it without having to watch it, without just summarizing it and being like, I watched it so you don't have to. Nothing like that. You know what I mean? It's not just like kind of going through the motions. It feels like you're getting the how-to, or the explainer almost. That it's like, you can now, so if you've seen Monster, you can go into this video as a bonus, as like an enriching of that experience if you love this series. I didn't even really know about Another Monster, to be honest with you. That sort of thing. Or if you're new to Monster, you do talk about the ending. It is spoilery, I will admit, but I think it's I think there could be an argument that you can cut out the parts that aren't spoilery and maybe make this sort of like a why watch Monster or something. But that's okay if that was not necessarily your goal. It was just more of just kind of like absorbing and like. And this is also part of a series for you. Like, this is like your 7th video of this kind. And I don't think I've ever really watched. I might have watched your Genius of Berserk video, which is your most popular video. I'm not sure if you've watched your other ones. But yeah, I mean, I'm certainly interested in that playlist now for sure. But I think this is great. I think you kicked the ass. This is wonderful. And the last video, oh my god. Weird and kind of scary Tokusatsu girls from Hazel. Of course, we're back. And already put out another video, and she's like, I'm sorry, the next 6 videos are going to be like, when I was making this in January. She was working on several simultaneous videos. So, of course, this next splurge is going to be freaking insane. Kudos. And it is another kind of egg. It is starting to get very funny, where it's like, I swear this is going to be a shorter video. And it didn't. Because she stumbled upon more information at the last minute. Because at first she wrote it in the context of like, this is all I could find of these videos of this series, and then kind of stumbled upon the rest of it and all this new information and updated it. But she kind of kept that narrative in the video of like, because there really wasn't a way to, because it was already written and recorded in that way. So it was sort of just like, oh, so it shows that it's a long, it shows her workflow, whereas like a very long work in progress, like is it editing Hazel here type of thing, which I'm not always the biggest fan of, at least when I'm doing videos, but I get it in the context of like making videos when you have when it's your livelihood and it's your Patreon and she didn't really have sponsors in this video, but she did have something akin to a sponsor. No money was exchanged, but she did have a deal with Scarecrow Video, and she kind of talked about it and promoted them, and that was really cool to see. I was like, I didn't expect that, and this was like really encouraging and exciting. But then, yeah, I think the video was really good because she does a couple different things, I think. Obviously, the intro is phenomenal because she's talking about something that feels very specific, and she's talking about it in such a way that's so compelling and relatable, and just perfect. Like, really works amazing. It was like, she's so good at this. And this kind of aura and this vibe and stuff. And then when it gets further into the video is when she starts kind of being her more usual self. It's just like, oh, I have this thing, And she mentions at one point, she's like, oh yeah, if you remember my VHS video where I completely botched the history of tentacle porn or something like that. I feel like she's starting to be more self-critical of her work or what she's doing. And she's like, I'm being a little more transparent about, or at least be more forthcoming about it in the video. And I'm not like I necessarily needed that, but it does alleviate it. Like the lamp shading, it does work. Where I would have this complaint and then she mentions it and I was just like, It's like, so at least where it's like she was like, one of my pet peeves about video production is when they leave a flash frame before the end of it. And I'm like, that's a pet peeve of mine too. And it's definitely something I've seen in your videos. Like earlier in this very video, I remember seeing a flash frame. And then she's like, no, mine is hard because I have those in mine because I work with anime footage in a certain length that she has an excuse and everything. And I'm like, all right. And I'm like, okay. But no, it's funny. I really, really dig her videos more and more. The more I watch them. As much as I have like gripes and criticisms, I say this about I think all of her videos now, where it's like, I can have my problems, but it doesn't matter because her humor is so infectious, her passion is so unique and nuanced and like honed in. Like it's not just I like shit. Like it really isn't. It's like there is taste there, and there is like, yeah, I can't really say much about this one. It's not the most passion about there is ones that are better and worse. And I like that she started with like the most like, oh my god, this kicks so much ass, and then it's so infectious. The passion is like yeah, it really does look good or whatever. And the self acknowledgement of like the vacant eyes or something like that. And I don't know. I will say that this was not the scope I was expecting. And then she does make her spiel of just like, look, I am a newcomer. I am an outsider to tokusatsu. I'm not even going to try to define it. I thought that she was going to talk about some of the more modern stuff. And she does. There is modern stuff in here because it's like it's still going. Some of these particular groups. There's so much that she does in this video. The more I'm thinking about it, I didn't even take notes. But a lot of it, like I watched it yesterday. And yet, like, I can recall a lot of it, which makes it for a very memorable video. But like, it was interesting. She also talked about like the thorny subject of how this is kind of adjacent to ningurumi or something like that, the Japanese term or whatever, of like, which is a fetishistic thing with like dressing up as anime characters, but not like that kind, not cosplay, but like human suit, like that sort of thing. And it's like it's kind of adjacent to that. Like it's in the neighborhood. It's down the street. And and talking about it, kind of dancing around, tiptoeing around it. But still acknowledging it, but still being like, bringing it up in that way. But I was thinking more like there's an artist I follow that they have a certain, they post their art that I'm following for. Wink, wink. But then because I'm following them, they also post other stuff. And the stuff that they post is like, not just tokusatsu, like, it's not just Kamen Rider or Sentai or Ultraman. There's other franchises that use suit actors that are, and a lot, there's these girl characters that are androids or, that are suit characters, but they have the, metal, like the plastic hair or something like kind of similar to this. Not quite the same. Because I think this one is more like, it's almost all regular besides like a suit, and then the mask is like a helmet or something. But theirs is a lot more full Toku body uniform, a big thing, big robot or something. I don't know. But there's like a whole, it's still a huge thing, and like using like the fan art of this stuff and them acting very casually, and Hazel brings that up in one of the segments here. Yeah, it dived in places I didn't even expect it did, and that was welcoming. It didn't feel predictable in that way. It just really fun video, and you're so fucking lucky that you can talk about this stuff and people will eat it up. You're so fortunate. Oh man, I'm mad jelly. It's like I would have no concern or fear of what I would talk about. I could talk about whatever I wanted and know there's an audience there. That is such a privilege. That is such a blessing that I'm very jealous of. But I have said with Hazel in particular, something about Hazel, and I feel like Kenny's similar to that too, or I have that similar. But they all have their own issues and their own short woes and shortcomings and other things that, I'm jealous of you to be able to do this and this. I'm like, well, I'm jealous of you to be able to do that. And it's a kind of a cute bonding thing that's weird. it's like, it's neat, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Really enjoyed the video. I didn't check out the Pokemon one yet, but I certainly will. I don't know if I'll talk about Digest next week, because I'm doing Digest next week. That's right. You will not see the end of me. This is not the last AniTube Digest, as decent as an ending as this could have been. Nearly 3 hours, 2 hour 49 minutes, at least from how I've recorded it. But that's about it. Oh, I missed this, and I'm looking forward to doing this a little more often. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.